You will not need technology for the session. If you do, Dr. Fisher will let you know if technology is needed. Some of you may be thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't bring my laptop. You don't need it. This is your opportunity to sit back and relax a little bit, hear about some We're still waiting for some technical difficulties. I'm sure following 2 years of interesting teaching with distance learning 2 years ago, you can relate that we're living in a technology age. Just when we thought we were done with all that Zoom and all those delays, keeps coming back to us. All right, let's see where we are. Where are my Highlands people? Nice. What about Rio Linda? Foothill? Grant? Rio Tierra? There you go. Norwood? MLK? Just you? Oh, there we are, over here. Kima? Kima? Pacific? Vista? Smythe? I was getting there. Smythe? Okay. Now who did I leave out? Oh my goodness. Foothill. Thank you, Leticia. Foothill Ranch. There you are. CCAA, Village, Kohler, Ridgepoint, Pioneer, WPCS. Anyone else that I forgot? Am I good now? Okay. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to do the live opening greeting for the whole district. I'll kind of give you a thumbs up when I'm starting that. Then I'm going to introduce Doug Fisher, hand it off to him, and just know during that part we're live all the way out. Once the keynote is over, it no longer is live streamed out. It's just all of you in here with Doug Fisher right in here. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Back to School Professional Development Day 1. This is an exciting time. We are being live streamed from Bay D out to about 20 different sites. I hope all of you have a fantastic day of learning, working with colleagues, and the presenters that we have brought in for you today. So it is my distinct honor to introduce the keynote for today. We have a keynote who is an author, he's a speaker, but most importantly, he's a teacher. And he is starting class next week, just like you. So let's give a warm welcome to Doug Fisher.
Thank you. I was having flashbacks of my Zoom days. I'm not sure where to stand. There's so many of you over here. Doug Fisher, welcome. This is my website. This is the best way to get a hold of me. So if you want to follow up with anything I say today, go to fisherandfry.com, hit contact. It'll come right to me. Hurry, write it down. It's going to go away. I'm already 15 minutes late. You got it? I'll come bring it back. So a few years ago, I was going to conferences, and all these presenters were talking about the human brain. Have you gone to conferences where they talk about the brains? It's all about brains, brain-based this, brain-based that. Well, I didn't know anything about the human brain, and I was feeling guilty about it. So in the summer, when I have free time, I decided I'm going to go back to school and learn about the brain. I make this commitment. I'm going to take a class at 7 o'clock to 9:40 on Thursday nights. Have any of you gone back to school? I don't know where I found time to go to college the first time. I was like one night a week. Now, my school starts at 7:30. This year we're going to start at 8:30 because California changed the rules. But we started at 7:30. Kids on campus in class at 7:30. So I'm not in class at 9:40, right? But there I am. I'm super committed. I'm going to take this brain class. Very proud of myself. I tell everyone at Health Sciences where I work at the high school that I'm taking a brain class. I might have bragged a little bit. I decided I'm going to buy the book in the summer. Comes to my house. I'm going to read the book in the summer because in the fall I'm a little busy. Here comes the first chapter, introduction, and it says, somites are blocks of dorsal mesodermal cells adjacent to the notochord during vertebrate organogenesis. I am now a struggling reader. Are you a struggling reader? So let's remember that struggle is situational. It's not the identity of our students. Most people would think I'm not a struggling reader in the rest of my life. But now I am struggling. And you know, at one point in our literacy history, every struggling reader got a phonics intervention. Do you remember that? We had a whole phonics time. Now, that's probably more for the people on video than you all, but we had this whole thing about phonics. Do I need a phonics intervention? How do you know? Because I just read it. Thank you for assessing me. At one point in our history, we got very obsessed with fluency. If I read this faster, will that help you? More recently, we've been obsessed with comprehension, strategy, instruction. We say to students things like, visualize. So I invite you, visualize. Can you make a prediction of what the author's going to say next? That's what we say to kids all the time, right? We act like comprehension is going to fix this. This is our current obsession. I believe you have to analyze the text. What makes this text complex for me? Vocabulary, yes. I don't know these words. I can sound them all out. My phonics skills were reasonably good. Did you hear me sound them all out? I said it with reasonable fluency, didn't I? I don't know what they mean. So I decided I'm going to close the book and I'm going to go to class. My first night of class, my teacher says to me, to all of us, there were 19 of us in the class, my teacher says, I don't know how you're going to learn this, but it's on the test. Yeah, college, welcome to college. I didn't know how I was going to learn it. My teacher doesn't know how I learn it. Do you see the problem in our relationship here? I should have quit. I should have dropped out because I cannot read this book. My teacher doesn't know how to teach. But I told everyone at Health Sciences that I was taking a brain class. The next morning, I was telling my friend Jeff, I'm going to fail my brain class, even though I'm super motivated to be there. And Jeff says, you know, there's the 10th grade book. It has 60 pages on the central nervous system in this 10th grade book. So I borrowed this 10th grade book because I can read like a 10th grader. And in this book, it talks about lobes and hemispheres, and blood supply, and the circle of Willis, and all this stuff. And I read it. And the next week I went to class, and guess what? My teacher started saying, you know, there's lobes, and there's hemispheres, and they're organized. And I'm like, I'm right there with you. And it feels amazing. That lasted about 15 minutes. Because the rest of the 2 hours and something, I have no idea what she talked about. But for 15 minutes, I was right there with her. If you have ever struggled through something and all of a sudden got it, it feels amazing. I called my colleague and co-teacher on the way home that night and I said to Nancy, do we give our students enough opportunities to struggle through something and feel amazing? Because I think we don't. I think we are in an anti-struggle era in American education. We over-scaffold, we over-front load, we over-pre-teach, we remove the struggle from learning, and then they don't learn very much and we complain. So this is the experience that changed it for me. It's like, where do we provide enough struggle? I didn't say put your hoodies up and heads down and cry, but enough struggle to make school worth it. So that night I was super motivated. I was driving home, and do you remember in America there used to be these things called bookstores? Do you remember this? Like you could literally pull over and touch books before you bought them. Do you remember this? Some of you are old enough to know this. So there I am, and this is the book I found in Barnes & Noble that night. Now, I might have said some bad things about this series in the past, and I'd like to take it back. When you're a novice, this is super useful information. I was on Amazon and found this book. The title has a lot of promises in it, don't you agree? Clinical Neuroanatomy, Made Ridiculously Simple, Interactive Edition. 3 DVDs. I bought this. That semester, I watched over 100 YouTube videos. I bought this 5 DVD series called The Secret Life of the Brain. I went on the internet and quizzed myself because my teacher had on our syllabus a midterm and a final. That was it. I was hoping for a paper. Like I could go to the library virtually, read some stuff, write a paper, get my A. Nope. midterm final. And then I'll talk to anyone who will listen to me talk about the brain. The midterm comes. It is 17 pages long, single-spaced, 200 multiple-choice questions. At the end of me taking the test, I handed it back to my teacher, and I said to her out of my mouth, "This is the best example of total recall that I've ever seen." You know what my teacher said? "Thank you." You know what I said in my brain? That was not a compliment. And I got a B+ on that test. I am more proud of the B+ on that midterm than anything else I've done educationally. I worked so hard for that. Thank you. I worked so hard for that test. And I had decided the night of the midterm, I'm driving home, not knowing my score, I decided if I failed the midterm, I would still leave the house every Thursday night, not go to class anymore, just go to a bar or something, because I'm too embarrassed to tell my family I failed. But I got a B+, so I'm really proud of myself. Now, besides a little bit of neuroanatomy, and I do mean a little bit, here's some things that I learned. You can't independently learn from books you cannot read. We continue to send 10th graders home with 10th grade books when they read at the 6th grade level. There's no evidence this is going to do a bit of good. None. And we keep doing it. But I can learn. I needed a teacher. Well, in my case, I had to be really motivated and read a lot on my own. Reading a lot builds background knowledge. Reading a lot builds your vocabulary. And talking with other people keeps you motivated and clarifies understanding. Unfortunately, there was not a single time in the entire semester where my teacher said, "Turn to your partner and talk." She never said, "Here's a question for the 4 of you." Never. But I know better. I believe learning is social. I believe human beings learn better when they interact with other human beings. So every Monday I would send an email out to my colleagues, my other 18 people in the class. All of them were full-time unemployed doctoral students. I have a job. So every Monday I would email them and said, "If you meet me in the Commons at 5 o'clock, class was at 7, I will buy you whatever you want to eat or drink." So I bought myself some friends because I have money. And they talked to me, and I think a huge part of me passing was that. What do I wish my teacher would have done? It's not rocket science. There's not some revolutionary thing. I wish she told us each week what we were supposed to learn. I have no idea in 2 hours and 40 minutes what I was supposed to be learning. I wish she would check our understanding. Like, are you getting any of this? I wish she would give us feedback. I saw my midterm for 20 minutes. And I asked her if I could have it because I wanted to show you all how bad it was. She said, "No, you can't have it. I use it again next semester." Align future instruction with our performance. This is not rocket science. This is very basic teaching. My teacher graduated from a school called Harvard. You know this school? She graduated from Harvard with a PhD. She's brilliant, brilliant. She didn't take a single class on teaching her entire college because everyone thinks they can do our job at least as well as we do it. Everyone thinks they could be an educator just like us because they don't realize there's a whole science to getting that brain to learn things. And that's our skill set. That's our superpower. We help young people's brains develop connections, synapses, so they can learn. I'll tell you one more thing. It was fun. For me, funny story, maybe not for you. So my teacher did not give any extra credit. There was no such thing as extra credit in graduate school, in the doctoral seminar. But my friend Nancy, to make me study for the final, took a wig stand, like a styrofoam wig thing, and she carved it, and she painted it with all the different areas of the brain, and she made little word cards, and she would mix them up, and then I would have to push pin them all in the brain, on the top of the brain, because the final was you had to memorize the whole cerebral cortex, every crack, wrinkle, fold. So she would take them all out, mix them up, and make me put them back in and say, "Okay, what's this part? What's it happen?" So I took my head with me to class on the final. I was hoping she would let me have it in the room because when you have your study aid with you, you learn better, you perform better, right? So my teacher took it away from me and played with it while I took my final. So conveniently, she rotated it around while I was taking my final. And at the end of class, I'm not kidding, at the end of class, she said, "Can I have this? Class is done." And I said, "If you give me 10 points of extra credit, you can have it." That's how I got an A and not a B+. So because I didn't actually deserve that A, but I got an A. So I want to spend a few minutes with you all on a couple topics in our morning time. What do we mean when we say gradual releasing responsibility? How do we guide students' thinking? what do we think about engagement? What is it, engagement? Because if the students aren't engaging with us, and we've had a crisis of engagement this past year, attendance was low, participation was low, completion of tasks was low this last year. And then how do we have students know what they're supposed to learn? That's the three things I want to focus on with our morning time. So I'm hoping you can, by the end of our time, tell me back what we mean by gradual release of responsibility and the order of phases, that you can give me some thoughts back around a continuum of engagement, and that you know what teacher clarity is. That's where we're going to go today. I wrote this sentence. It's my favorite sentence I've ever written in my entire life. And I have written many sentences in my life. This is my favorite. I believe it with all of my heart. Every student deserves a great teacher, not because they're lucky and they happen to live in a zip code, but because we're amazing at what we do. And we realize that we are the deciding factor of whether or not kids learn. And teachers, you all are giving away all your credit. You're explaining it to other people. Oh, the family, oh, the kid. It's you. The reason the kids are learning is because of you. You are the number one deciding factor in students' achievement. We've got decades of research on that. It is you. Own that. So we built this gradual release of responsibility. If I had notes, I would have you be taking foldable notes, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to just explain it, then we'll do some more in the afternoon session. So when we think about teaching, accessing, I think that any strategy you give me can fit in these four. These are four major moves that we make as educators. Nancy and I drew these triangles in 1997. They've been around a really long time. All we were trying to show, some of you are like, I wasn't even born in 1997. All we were trying to show is there are times in a lesson where the teacher is doing more of the work, and there are times in the lesson where the student's doing the work. Do you see that? That's all we're trying to show. The problem with this is that people think we said you have to start at the top and then go down. I've never said that. I've never written that. In any order that makes sense to you, this is what we're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to start with collaborative. I believe every single day in every one of our lessons, no matter what grade you are, students should have a chance to talk to another person, process the content, engage with their peers in negotiating meaning. Do you have English learners in your district? Do they speak Spanish? Some of them? Many of them? Do you all speak Spanish? Some yeses, some no, some Cs. If it were easy to learn a language from listening to a language, everyone in this room would speak Spanish by now. We hear it all the time. No one learns a language from listening to a language. You learn a language when you produce a language. How many kids in your district can go all day long without ever having to talk? Too many. How will they ever become proficient in academic English if they never have to use it to be successful? So we aim for, this is a goal, I have to be careful, it's not a regulation, it's not a policy, I'm not an administrator. We have a goal that 50% of our class time is in collaborative learning. It's hard to accomplish, that's why we make it a goal. If it was easy, we wouldn't have to have a goal. How do you get students to talk to each other? All of you with middle school and high school, they will talk to each other, won't they? That is not the problem. Using the academic language to talk about what you want them to talk about is the challenge. So we aim for that. We're going to spend more time together later on how to do that. If I go up one, guided instruction. We prompt, we cue, we question. We don't tell kids information. We guide their thinking. If we keep rescuing kids and not guiding their thinking, I'm going to tell you an answer, I'm going to tell you an answer, we will create learned helplessness. I've seen a lot more learned helplessness in the last couple of years. Do you remember, I don't want to have trauma with you all and flashbacks, but do you remember, did you Zoom? Is that your favorite platform was Zooming? Do you remember Zooming and parents shouting out answers during the Zoom meetings? Remember this? And I work at a school that's nearly 100% free lunch, and parents were home, and they're shouting out answers, and I'm like, you're wrong. That's not right. So I started saying things like this. Hello, families. If you can hear my voice, will you please go and clean something and give your child some privacy to learn? So we had over-helping in this. So we have now kids who have learned helplessness, and we're going to have to work to undo that. If I go to the top, focus instructions, what we call it, it's where you set the purpose for learning every day, and you model your thinking. You provide an input to the learner. It does not have to come at the beginning of the class. But at some point, students deserve to hear some thoughts of yours because you know stuff. And you open up your brain and you share that with students. And you can do demonstration, you can do direct instruction, you can do a think aloud, you can do a worked example, all kinds of things. But you provide input. And then last, independent, we ask students to practice and apply what you just taught them. This is not rocket science. This is what kids deserve. Every day, time to talk to each other using academic language. Every day, you there to scaffold their understanding. Every day, you there to open your brains and show them how to think. And every day, they have to practice. Unfortunately, we don't always see this. Sometimes we see this classroom. We call this one the sudden release of responsibility classroom, not the gradual release of responsibility classroom. This was my class in 9th grade. My 9th grade algebra teacher did this to us. We would come in every day, he would do math, and then we would do math. He would show us math, and then we had to practice math. I was not qualified to be in Algebra 1, and I failed Algebra 1 at 9 weeks, at semester, at year, and at summer school. Because this class assumes you already know stuff. If I say La Jolla, do you know what I'm talking about? La Jolla. Where do you keep your rich people? Granite Bay. Okay. So we keep our rich people in La Jolla. You keep yours in Granite Bay. So translate. So I said this, I got myself in trouble. I still believe it. I'll just clarify. You don't have to be a great teacher to teach in Granite Bay. That doesn't mean there aren't great teachers in Granite Bay. I'm sure there are. There are great teachers in La Jolla. I'm sure there are. You just don't have to be great. Because those kids show up and they already know so much stuff. There's a huge practice effect here. And they're practicing, so when they take their assessment, say, look, great. To teach in City Heights, this doesn't work. You cannot get outcomes from this. Because those students need much more scaffolding, support, and time to talk to other people to make sense of the curriculum. There is a class that's worse than this. Have you seen this classroom? Welcome to school, do it yourself. I have run the photocopy machine, I have 40 pages and a staple, here it is, right? That's not teaching. That's causing or assigning work. That nice person at Starbucks this morning could do this. Just be a little organized, be a little polite. This is not teaching. And some of you this year will inherit students who had this last year. And those kids have forgotten how to learn. Because they think school is simply a list of all the things you have to do. And so you're going to have to spend some time reteaching them the routines of how classes work, how learning works. There's this one. This is the most common misapplication of our work. Do you see that collaborative learning is not there? People are afraid of collaborative learning, especially when they get to your age groups. The students will go off topic. They will talk about what they want to talk about. This is what I hear. They're loud. That's what I hear. But when I interview teachers and say, why, you know so much about collaborative learning, you know it works, you know it's kids process more when they interact, but why aren't you doing it? You know what I hear the number one reason why teachers really don't do collaborative learning? When I was in blank grade, my teacher gave us group work. Nobody else did it, but I did it. And all those other kids got my grade. I hear this all the time from educators. So I think about this. I think most of you became teachers because you were teacher pleasers. You were compliant learners. If your teacher told you to do something, you did it. I didn't say you were perfectly behaved, but generally you were teacher pleasers. You decided to spend the rest of your life in school. Do you know how many of your colleagues in elementary middle cannot imagine spending the rest of life in school? You all decided that. You're generally teacher pleasers. I see you shaking your head now. Some of you became teachers as therapy for what happened to you, but most of us were the compliant kids in school. And if our teacher said, do this, we did it. Even if no one else in the group did it, we did it. And then 30 years later, we're bitter about that because it wasn't fair. Today, we know more. We know how to build individual accountability into the group work. We know more. And so if you're with me, today we're going to talk about how do you hold kids accountable for the group work and not just have it be these random good luck to you kinds of tasks. That's what we want to accomplish. Don't look at the bad one too long. This is what we want to see happening. It's not rocket science. There's not some magic withheld information about teaching and learning. You have 4 major choices as a teacher. And you have to have strategies that go in each of these. And if you do, you're going to be great. And kids will learn from you. If you skip any of these, students aren't going to learn. The most common question I get, could I do 2 of these today and then 2 of them tomorrow? Yes, you're a teacher, do what you want. If you don't care your kids are going to learn, do whatever you want. I know what it takes to close the loop for kids to learn. We've studied this long enough. So we've been on gradual release, and I hope you got the sense. It does not occur in any prescribed order. Turn to your partner and say that. It does not occur in any prescribed order.
The purpose.
You all too. Now, thank you. Now with your partner, let me interrupt you there. With your partner, name the 4 aspects of gradual release again. Turn to your partner, name them. If I could interrupt you there. Allow me to interrupt you. So I hope you said either focused, guided, collaborative, independent in whatever order, or you said I do, we do, you do together, and you do alone. Those are the 4. Either way, I don't care which one. We're going to move into engagement now. I'm going to argue that when you're in the classroom, there are teachers, you, there are students, and then there are stuff they're supposed to learn. Does that make sense to you? That's the 3 things that are operating in a classroom. The overlap between the teacher and the student is a relationship. And young people learn more from grown-ups they value. Say it another way, to paraphrase the late Rita Pearson, young people don't learn from old people they don't like. We know this. The effect size is powerful. So I'm with you all, and it's easier if you're teaching 2nd grade and you have 30 kids or whatever your class sizes are. It's easier to know their names. For you all, it's harder to learn 210 names. I get that. That's what you signed up for. So however you're going to do it, know their names. Don't call them buddy. They know you don't know their names. Do you know in a survey of 67,000 students, 52% of them said, my teacher doesn't know my name? 52% of 67,000 kids. And by the way, do you know what they can get away with if you don't know their names? When we talk about this engagement, we're talking about right now a crisis of engagement. So I would like to argue, this is Amy Berry's version, that engagement is not a yes-no. Students either engaged or disengaged. That's not it. Amy says there's a continuum of engagement. Notice that passive is in the middle, and you can be active in both directions. Unfortunately, you probably had students last year who are actively disengaged. Do you remember them? And I hope you had students who are actively engaged, because you deserve that. So we decided last school year to take this on and teach it in the beginning of the school year. We created posters at our school, and we said we're going to teach students what it means to engage. We're going to have them set their intention today. What is your intention for engagement? And then to reflect. So Nancy and I did it with clickers. We had students click in anonymously at the end of class. Where was your level of engagement today? Thomas Tutogi, world history teacher, did it a little differently. He had students do exit slips, but we used the same language across the whole school. We just adopted Amy Berry's language across the whole school. So if the kid had a conversation with the vice principal, same language. Chemistry, same language. English, same language. World history, same language. And we talked with students, and we actually taught them about engagement. Now, because I'm being live streamed to the whole district, I've chosen a video that's a 4th grade teacher. On our YouTube channel, a similar lesson, but in a jigsaw, is with high school kids. So I'm going to show 4th grade for the viewers who are at home. So let's watch Sarah teach her students in the beginning of last year about engagement. No sound. This is Sarah. She's talking. This is one of her students. There's another one. Look, there she's doing engagement continuum. Do you notice that their names are on the board back here? Oops, they went away. He says really funny stuff. It disrupts me when other people are talking, is what he said. Okay, this is from February.
The purpose of today is that we want to break down some of the steps
That's
in
not the
creating
right
a
video.
recipe and focus in on the ingredient.
We don't need that video. We skipped that one. This is teamwork. Here we go. Do you want to watch
1
this
minute.
video?
1 minute, please.
Oh, that one we could skip too. That's a funny video, though. Do you have it? Can we watch it? That's really short. This was the one when I said you got what happens when they don't know their names. Can we play that one? Maybe? It's really funny. Sorry you don't get to watch it. I really like this one. Do you want to try it? There it is.
1 minute. 1 minute, please. Time, thank you. Could you all please put down your pens and bring your papers to the front of the room? Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, you're too late. Gave you plenty of warnings about time. You failed. Sorry.
Excuse me, do you know who I am?
I have absolutely no idea.
Good.
See what they can get away with when you don't know their names? So memorize their names fast. I work with a teacher. His last name is spelled A-S-S-O-F. Unfortunate, but it's his last name, A-S-S-O-F. And he will say next Monday when our kids come back, he will say to all of his classes in mathematics, if I don't know your name by Friday of this week, for the rest of the year, you can pronounce my name however you want. He pronounces his name Asaph. He's never lost. I've worked with him 8 years. He's never lost. He knows all of their names. So this engagement crisis, we're going to skip that video. Oh, we're not. We'll skip it. Ready? Past it. So this is where she was in February. If you watch the video ever, in the beginning of the school year, they have names up here where they set their intention. Now in high school, we did not have a public board like this where we had students put their names up. This was what an elementary in our community did. And they actually taught it. Now we have posters. Our art teacher made this amazing set of posters for each of the 6 levels, and we all had them up. And then each day we had students set their intention on engagement, and then we had them reflect on their level of engagement. Because what if we came to understand that our students don't show up knowing what engagement looks like? And if we want them to engage, let's teach them what we mean by engagement. Let's have them set their intention today for engagement. Let's have them reflect on their levels of engagement. Do you see any use in the engagement continuum, Amy Berry's work, in your school, in your class? Even if it's just you, do you want to do something with it? You will have this whole PowerPoint if you want to use it. Will you talk to your partner a minute? Like, how might you use that engagement continuum as you start school on Thursday? If you could finish the thoughts you're on. Allow me to interrupt you. Welcome back. My turn. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation. So I'm hoping that brief introduction of engagement, and those of you here, I'm happy to talk with you further about how we did it at our school. If you want the posters, you're welcome to them. It was so empowering to say, you know what, all I have to do is move you from here to here. That's great, I feel success. Then I'm going to move you from here to here, and I feel more success. We didn't say you were withdrawing, and now you have to be driving. We just talked about, like, how do I move you up a little bit? The last area of our morning time is around where the teacher and the content overlap. We call that overlap teacher clarity. Teacher clarity has a strong influence on learning. Do students know what they're learning from us? It's part of that phase up here. We call it focused instruction, but it doesn't have to come at the beginning of the lesson. At some point in the lesson, I hope your students know what they're supposed to learn from you. They shouldn't have to guess. You know, we teach inferencing in English language arts, but they shouldn't have to inference what they're learning from you. We should be more direct with it. I asked the administrators, did anybody invite the administrators? Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I ask administrators, when you visit classrooms, please do not walk up to a randomly selected student and say, what are you doing? It's a terrible question. If you walk up to a kid, say, what are you learning? School is about learning things. Please ask young people what they're learning today, not what they're doing. When we establish our purpose, this is what we're learning today. Yes, we do things, the tasks, activity, assignments, but we focus on learning. Now I'm going to try and show you 2 videos, we'll see. And if not, we can talk them through. This is from the same school on the same day. It is a K-8 bilingual school in San Diego. And we walked up to students pretty much at random and said, what are you learning today? What are you learning today? What are you learning today? This first video, these kids have no clue what it is they're learning. The second video, they have a better sense. So see, and so you're going to watch some little kids and some middle schoolers here. Okay. Do I need to click? I don't want to touch anything, do it wrong.
Why do you think that's important when you write, to have all these senses in there? Why does that help? I don't know, I think...
Para aprender. We need to learn all the physical properties of matter. So because we're gonna have a science test. We're gonna have a test. We need to memorize.
And who are you writing this to? Who's going to get that paper that you're writing?
It's a field journal.
Do you actually share that writing with anybody, or you just put it in your folder?
We just leave it in here.
Oh, very good. Why is it important to learn the word colossal or any of these other words in Worldly Wise?
So we expand our vocabulary.
So why is that important? So you have a big vocabulary. Who cares?
Because it'll help us out later in life to get a job.
To get a job? Thanks.
It also will help you in the future, like to get AP classes in high school.
Very good.
¿Estás aprendiendo esto por qué?
Para CSTs, para prepararnos para que cuando ya llegue van a venir preguntas así y estemos listos.
Okay, so why do we learn that?
Because it's the California standards.
That's a good...
¿Y para qué creen que es importante saber la geometría?
Para, ¿cómo se dice? Para
No. ¿Qué te imaginas tú para qué?
We do summary writing. What's the point of that?
We're just trying to vary our sentences. Yesterday we talked about not starting them all and
Yeah, definitely for practice. Why do you write about the 5 senses? Why is that important?
Remember we talked, there's no watermelons in the rainforest. How about
Why do we learn that? Why is that important?
That made it easy.
Do you guys want to?
I like those last two students. Maybe if we turn away, they'll go away. Same school, same day. These students have a better sense of what they're supposed to be learning.
Well, why do we learn similes? Why do you think?
To make your stories more entertaining.
Very good. So why do you think the teacher makes you do this? What's the point?
So we understand how to like draw conclusions and stuff like that.
Entonces, ¿por qué es importante saber esto?
Para que sabemos cuáles son abiertas y cuáles son cerradas.
Doing vocabulary like this.
To show our understanding of vocabulary words and or criteria.
And why do you think that's important to learn more vocabulary?
Well, it widens your vocabulary, so, and therefore widens your understanding of complex literature.
Not bad. Why do we do main idea and details? What's the point of that? Why do you do that?
We do it because so we could know what main ideas are and topics are.
Learning that because we're scientists and we're trying to learn what the properties of an apple is and to figure out what you can describe it about.
Okay.
Because it describes the paragraph more and it takes out all the things that don't really care.
Very well said. And last question. What do you?
Quiero preguntarles para qué es importante saber la sílaba tónica.
Porque no lo puedes decir como pediría, porque luego el señor dice ¿qué?
Entonces, el saber la sílaba...
Pegajosa, pegajosa, pegajosa.
¿Eso qué es? ¿Qué es lo que acabas de hacer?
Es para mirar cuántas sílabas tienen, como pegajosa, 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 y dicen cuántas sílabas tienen.
¿Por qué es importante saber las sílabas?
Porque necesitas saberlo para poder ser bien de escritoria.
Why is it important to have adjectives?
Because if you only say they would be trees, it wouldn't be a really good story.
So again, same school, same day. The rich get richer and the poor get poor. The evidence is when students know what they're supposed to learn, they are 3 times more likely to actually learn it. That's on us. We can decide to do that on Thursday. We can decide to tell students, here's what we're learning today. We'll spend more time with that in various sessions today. At that school, we ended up in a PD session that afternoon coming up with these 3 questions. They're now our framework across the whole school system. What am I learning today? That's your learning intention, your learning goal, your learning target, whatever you all call it. What is it that I want to learn today? Number 2, why am I learning this? Why do I have to learn the stuff that you're all teaching? Where's the relevance? I got myself in trouble. I was at a state conference and I said to a group of teachers, if there's a standard that you don't know how to make relevant to students, skip it. Because if you can't figure out the relevance, they're probably not going to learn it anyway. Oh, and I got in so much trouble. I got this letter. It said all standards are created equally. You cannot say this. Really, it's one standard, right? Now, if you can't figure out how 25 standards are relevant, you probably need to go back to school and learn some other stuff. But you know what? If there's one, I don't know how to make it relevant to learners, they're probably not going to learn it in the first place. Because that second question is important. Russ Qualia's research says students who see relevance in learning are 14 times more academically motivated to learn. Because I want to learn that. The third question, how will I know I learned it? That's the success criteria. What does successful learning look like in your class? What does it mean to learn this? At what level do I have to learn it? That's what we're trying to accomplish every day. Every single day. What is it I'm learning? Why am I learning this? How will I know that I learned it? So as you think about those videos and you hear those questions, what differences are you noticing? And is it time to resuscitate, like CPR? Do you need to resuscitate purpose? So do students know what they're learning from you? How can you make sure on Thursday that you start the year with, here's what we're learning, not what we're doing? And I'm also not a big fan of the standards on the wall, just so you know. We had, 9 superintendents ago? Something like that. Many superintendents ago, there was a rule that you had to put the standard on the wall. The rule was date, agenda, standard, homework, dash, had to be on our walls. Well, I think this is not a smart rule, and I'm cynical about these things. So I went to Kinko's, and I photocopied the standards for 9th grade English, really big. I laminated them, and I took a staple gun, and I staple gunned them to the ceiling. And so when the principal walked in, I would say, behold the standards, they're all here. Check me off. That's not a smart rule. That's compliance. I don't care if it's on the wall. I don't care if it's in their notebooks. I don't care what you do. I can't tell you how to teach. What I can tell you is, when students know the answers to those questions, they're going to learn more from you. However you do it. And I know lots of systems make up rules to try to get compliance, and I get that. But if you make a commitment, my students are going to know every day what they're learning. They're going to learn more from you. Back to this question, what did you notice in those videos? How are you thinking about the resuscitation of purpose in the classroom? We'll take a quick conversation, and I'll come back to you. Turn your heads, move your mouths. Thank you. Nope. Hold on. Yeah, we got it. Could you finish the thoughts you're on? Allow me to interrupt you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm looking for a couple volunteers to say, I'm looking for a few volunteers to say, here's something that's resonating with me, here's something that's on my mind based on this session, your partner conversations or me, that you're thinking about for Thursday when students return. Volunteers. Yes, please. Uh-huh. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a mindset that they show up with, like, I can't learn this. By the way, a bunch of kids show up in world languages like Spanish. I can't learn this either, too, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for that. And so conversations, quick turns, making sense, turning to a partner, processing. Thank you. Someone else. Please.
So one of the kids, when he kept saying that big apple, so doing this with his body, I noticed that he was expressing his way of learning train what they're confident in and let them teach it. So if somebody gets it, let them also teach it to their peers.
Awesome. Can I have one more, because then I have to let you all go for a break, because then they have to go do their own things. I keep pointing to them, that's the people on the camera. One more? Anything to take away? Thank you.
What I noticed the second group, they were more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Kids were relaxed, and they kind of knew they were going, and that's always nice. And I've been doing this is what we're doing, this is why it matters to me later on, because I have seniors in continuation high school, like, you don't want to be the dumbest guy in the room, so that's why I'm teaching you this word.
Mm-hmm.
Or how to do this, conversation or whatever. But, it makes me look at that and I go, I could do better. I could definitely do better if I were
Awesome.
I'm selling that.
This is relevant. And I like you don't want to be the dumbest guy in the room. That's important. I like that. I'm going to say that next week.
Yeah, that's kind of common thing for me.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I have to take a break now because they're going to end the cameras. But before I do that, I want to say thank you to the technology crew for your perseverance with me and not giving up on me. Thank you very much. And we have a 15-minute break, so I will see you at 46. See you in a few minutes.